Look, the long answer is I didn't. I actually turned it down twice. And on the third time that Universal and Peacock came to me, I said, look, I'll do it, but we have to approach it in a very specific way. I said, I want to focus on the families, I want to focus on the police, the lawyers, and the victims. And when I say to you from that moment until this second, they've been supportive of that. They absolutely have, even when I didn't really know what any of that meant. And it wasn't until we got into the writer's room that we figured out these short stories where we got to take a select group of victims and look at their lives when, through the hopes and the dreams and the tragedies and the challenges in their lives that had absolutely nothing to do with John Wayne Gacy, that sort of the door was unlocked and we understood exactly what our North Star was going to be the entire time. And it became, I keep saying to people that I didn't set out to make it special, but it became special. And I don't say that lightly. I think that this is actually going to be an interesting experiment to see when people say they want to focus on victims, to see whether it works for them or not, because I think it's really powerful what everyone's done. The writers, the directors, the actors, they've just done extraordinary work. Sure. I mean, look, the honest, it's a very simple answer. If my initial instinct was to not tell the story because I didn't want to focus on John Wayne Gacy, and not out of some holier-than-thou mentality, just simply, did we really need another story about a serial killer? And in my estimation, the answer to that was no. But if you're going to do it, then you should find a reason to do it. And that just became the reason. And I will tell you that I think that it was a really powerful experience because I've worked with the same writers for years and years and years and years. And by happenstance, they are predominantly queer. And so much, we had partnered with GLAAD early on, and so much of what we were attempting to do was to carefully tell this story in a way that we would not be equating John Wayne Gacy's evil with homosexuality or queerness, right? But more than that, we were telling these stories of these young boys and young men who were taken far, far too soon and violently. But the way that our writers wrote was coming from a very personal place. And what was sad and tragic for me to realize in the writer's room, even though you can feel it all around you, is that there is a relevancy to this story. Because now more than ever, the same prejudice that drove the police to ignore many of these cases is a prejudice that exists today, and is a prejudice that we have got to face, and we have to realize that it is a degradation of people, a degradation of our society, and ultimately it leads to violence over and over and over again in the history of mankind.